Hello, Simon here again. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. Today I thought I'd put together a video of my top 10 tips for guitar players. Many of these may only be relevant to beginners, but there are probably one or two points which intermediate or even players who've been playing for a number of years may get something from. So point one is understand the vocabulary of the guitar. What I mean by that is when you first start playing, you're going to get bombarded with lots of technical terms for parts of the guitar, which you might think you don't need to know, but when you actually start playing and learning and having lessons, then a lot of these things you'll need to know in order to take your playing further. So like things like frets, the fretboard, the nuts, machine head, tuners, etc, etc. So for example, at some point someone's going to say to you, can you play the 6th string at the 3rd fret? So you need to be able to know how to find that. Most guitar tutors will go through aspects of the guitar when you first start playing, but it's a good idea to get hold of a beginner's guitar book which will have lots of diagrams inside it explaining what the different parts of the guitar are and what they do. Point number two, and this is a big thing for me, is learn how to tune the guitar. It drives me quite crazy when I see guitar players playing at gigs. I've played some quite reasonable sized venues where guitar players are not in tune, and it's something that if you're going to learn how to play the guitar, you need to learn how to tune it, basically. Not only to sound good when you're playing in front of other people, but for your own enjoyment. There's no point learning parts if the guitar's not in tune and you can't play along with people. So I would say, yes, whilst you want to learn as quickly as possible how to tune the guitar by ear or manually, so to speak, a good investment when you buy your first guitar is to buy an electronic tuner of some description. A good one for beginners in particular is the sort that clip on the end of the headstock, so whilst they're picking up the sound of the guitar, they mainly pick up the vibration from the headstock as well, so that it makes them more accurate for tuning. A good tip or quote on this is from one of my favourite guitarists, David Grissom, who says he tunes because he cares. So basically, if you're going to play the guitar, it's got to be in tune. Point number three is, again, might sound quite basic, but when you first start playing, learn as many chords as you can. Every guitar player needs to build up a good chord vocabulary, not only so that you can play along with songs, but obviously so you can write your own tunes, and playing more and more chords helps build up the strength in your fingers. So to me, a good selection of chords to start with would be G, E minor, C and D. There are actually lots of songs which are written using those 4 chords, and there's a lot of different things you can do with them, but the more and more chords that you learn, the more songs you'll be able to write, the more songs you'll be able to learn, and the stronger your hands will get, meaning you'll be able to do a lot more things on the guitar. A lot of tutors, which I'm one of them, would try and get students playing as many chords as they can, or learn as many chords as they can, so that they get some instant gratification from it rather than lots of theory straight away. Open chords are just great to get people playing, and even if they only know 2, E minor and A minor, they can at least learn how to change between those 2 chords, and already they're getting some instant gratification. They can hear what they can do musically with the instrument. Number 4 is learn the fretboard. And again, another good tip I could say on this is that if you're going to start playing at some point with other guitar players, other musicians, then if you've not learnt the fretboard and somebody says the song's in E and you don't know where all the E's are on the guitar, then you're not going to be able to jam along with them. Yes, obviously at some point you're going to start learning some scales, blues scales, etc, etc, but at least to start with, if you don't know where all the notes are on the fretboard, you're not going to be able to jam along with other people. I'm going to do a separate video on this to explain it in more detail, but I'd certainly say it's important to do that, even if you start with just the 2 E strings, the 6th and the 1st string, because obviously they're exactly the same notes all the way up the fretboard. Then it gives you a starting base and you can start to work out other notes across the fretboard. Number 5 is, and I'll probably get shot down for saying this, but theory can wait. At least initially, when you first start playing the guitar, like I said earlier on, you want to just start learning some open chords so that you can get some instant gratification, as I like to say, from playing the guitar. Yes, later on down the line you're going to want to learn some scales, but for the first few weeks I'd say that can certainly wait, as can learning to read music. Again, it can come a little bit further down the line. I'm not saying don't do it, but at least initially you want to get used to playing the instrument. And in my opinion, teaching beginners, if you try and introduce, as I know some people have said you perhaps should, theory and scales and things at the, say, second or third lesson, it's just going to blow the mind, to be honest. You're much better getting those first few chords in the mind so that they can start trying to change between them. And what you might find is with a lot of younger players is that the hands are small, so they need to learn some chords to start with to build up some strength. And if you start talking about major scales, etc., it's just going to be too much. So definitely, in my opinion, when you're first starting out, theory can wait. Number 6 is, I've said to a couple of my students who are beginners, don't be afraid to experiment. So whilst I'm showing chords and different things, maybe some arpeggios, basic with the plectrum when you're first starting off, if you sat at home at night playing the guitar in front of the television, just run your finger up and down some strings. Just try playing, if you've been shown E minor or a C, move it up and down the fretboard until it sounds right. I've always been one that you find a lot out about the guitar by experimenting, and at least to start with, not being too rigid in what you do. So if you've learnt a few chords, move them up and down the fretboard, see where they go. If they sound bad, you don't play them there. If they sound good and it sounds good to you, then please, play it. Next point, number 7. This might sound a bit cheesy, but I say don't practice, play. So again, when you're first starting out, whilst you're going to start learning some scales, and at that point you're going to start practicing regularly, hopefully, it's still important just to sit down and play the guitar. So strum a few chords, see what fits together nicely, and within this point is probably see if you can start writing songs. You only need a couple of chords to start playing a song. I used to find that just sitting down and doing chord change between 2 chords and trying to sing a melody over the top either gave you starting to write songs straight away. So yes, practice. You can practice scales, etc., until you're blue in the face, but in my opinion, don't practice, play. Number 8, which again is an important one for me from when I was learning to play the guitar, is listen. So listen to your favourite bands. Once you've started to move on a bit and you've got a few chords, you can try and work out what key a song's in, and try and just play a few things on the fretboard, see what fits. If you've started to learn a few chords, then listen to some music, start trying to play a few notes along to it. You learn a lot more once someone's given you a few pointers. This is certainly the way that I did it. You take those few initial things you've been shown, and it's nothing better than sitting down with your favourite song and seeing what notes fit where, again, which comes in with learning the fretboard. You can soon work out by sliding your finger up and down a string what key a song's in, because you'll find the note that fits, and then you can start playing around that. But yeah, listening to your favourite bands and trying to play along to it is another great way to learn the guitar and to take your playing a bit further. And then going on from that, point number 9 is play with other people, join a band. I first started playing with other musicians in bands about 15 years ago. I'd already been playing for a number of years, but once you start playing with other people, it's amazing how much your technique and how much your songwriting ability, your timekeeping, how it all improves particularly when you start playing with a drummer, as long as they can keep time, of course. But no drummer jokes. But yeah, playing with people, other musicians, is fantastic, and I'd say that in the last 15 years, since when I started playing with other musicians, my playing came on fantastically well. And not only that, my songwriting, bouncing ideas off other people, seeing what works, what doesn't. So I'd say once you've been playing a few months, if you start feeling like you're in a bit of a rut, try and find friends to play with, even if it's just in your bedroom, and another guitar player, and again, bouncing ideas off each other, seeing what other people can play. But definitely play with other musicians as quickly as you can. And then final point, number 10, quite simple really, just enjoy it. A few people have said to me who teach guitar players that they've not been afraid to say to someone after 2 or 3 lessons, particularly if they're quite young, you don't seem like you're enjoying it or you're finding it a struggle, I'd say, and some people might be surprised at this, but if you're quite young, leave it for a bit. If you're struggling, if your hands aren't big enough, come back to it in 6 months, a year, when you feel you might be a bit more able to get your hand around the fretboard and to press down a lot of youngsters, younger players, sort of 8, 9, 10, perhaps struggle to get their hands around the fretboard or press the strings down because it hurts. Alright, with a bit of perseverance you'll get through that, but if you're not enjoying it, don't do it. Go away for a bit and come back some months later and have another go at it, because there's nothing that's going to put an 8, 9, 10-year-old child off playing more than if they're finding it painful and someone's pushing them to play whatever, some chords, and they can't do it, or the mum and dad are pushing them to say, well, you need to learn this. You've got to enjoy to play, otherwise it's pointless. That's why I've managed to stick with it for quite a few years, because I enjoyed it and got something out of it straight away. So they're my top 10 tips. Some of them will be more relevant than others, and I'd say don't stick rigidly to all of them. Like I say, have fun, experiment and see what you can get out of it. It's a great journey, and I'm sure that people who are perhaps having a few doubts when they first start playing it's a bit difficult, stick with it and you'll get something out of it. So more videos to come. Thank you for watching this one. Sorry for all the talking. Please check out my website, details of which are on the screen now, and I shall see you soon. Cheers.